How's it going, friends? We are at one of my favorite places to sort of, not waste, but definitely spend a lot of a weekend, a lot of a Saturday or something like that. We're at Gerton's, and Gerton's is a absolutely massive nursery, greenhouse, plant, tree store, that kind of thing. It is beautiful. It's so huge. They have wonderful selections, and yeah, I'm a big fan. But today we're not talking just about Gerton's, although maybe that could be a good video idea. We're talking about Inver Grove Heights, which is home of Gerton's. And I don't know if you can tell, but over here, you can see that we're sort of set up a little bit high. There's a bit of a river situation going on there, some bluffs, some kind of long distance views. And personally, for me, I love that. I love a good view, talk about it all the time. And I'm very excited to share this with you. Inver Grove Heights, let's just hit it, shall we? How's it going, my friends? My name is Jesse Lynch, and I run the hardest working real estate team in the game. We're called To The Twin Cities, and you can check out our website, tothetwincities.com. But this YouTube channel is all about helping you find a place to call home, a place to land here in the beautiful Twin Cities of Minnesota. Particularly beautiful day today. Spring day, warmest day I think we've had this year so far. Loving it, absolutely loving it. But that is neither here nor there. This channel is for you, whether you are a first-time home buyer looking for your first home, somebody who is moving from a different city, state, country, planet, dimension, whatever realm, or somebody who's already lived here. Maybe you're looking for a change of pace, a new neighborhood, something like that. That's what we do. That's what we focus on. So if any of that appeals to you, do me a favor, do yourself a favor, subscribe to the channel, click the bell to get notified so you can see every time we put out a video just like this. And if you wouldn't mind, give the video a thumbs up, say something nice or funny or clever or, I don't know, strange, abstract in the comments, and I would appreciate that very, very much. And as always, if you have any interest in working with us, you can go to our website, tothetwincities.com. We have a contact form there that you can fill out in like 30 seconds or less, or you can shoot us an email directly to info@tothetwincities.com. They lead to the same inbox, so totally up to you how you do it. We just ask that you do. Look forward to helping you. I said it at the top, but today's video, we're talking Inver Grove Heights. First of all, somebody's been asking for this video for like a year, and I apologize. We got to it. I promised we would get to it, but it did take probably too long. We put out a lot of videos, and we just have not gotten to this yet, but I'm excited to share this place with you. Inver Grove Heights does have a lot to offer. So, what do you say? Should we dive in? Oh, by the way, Cub Foods, we've got a Target very nearby here, Home Depot right over there. This spot is probably the commercial core, one of maybe a couple in Inver Grove Heights. All right, let's go. All right, y'all, we are at a regional park here. It's the Swing Bridge Park. Real quick, it's just a very cool historical bridge area, but it's right along the river, and it's just a great spot here. Frankly, I wish there was a little more foliage. I wish it was a little later in the spring, because I really think that this place would pop, or in the fall, I suppose. But hey, it's Minnesota. We got seasons. And absolutely, I'll say it one more time, these spring days like today, these warm spring days, there's like no greater feeling. The amount of appreciation that you'll have for a day like this is hard to conjure the words to explain. Inver Grove Heights is a southeast suburb of St. Paul. It's about 15 to 20 minutes from where I stand to downtown St. Paul, and maybe 25-ish minutes to downtown Minneapolis from here. You're also quite conveniently located to the airport, about 15 minutes or so to the airport. Population here is 36-ish thousand people. And it is quite a beautiful landscape. We got the river, that's where we're kind of walking toward, is the river. And because of that, you kind of have a lot of bluffage, which I know isn't a word, but quite a rolling landscape, all sort of leading up to the river. I'm just on the eastern border of Inver Grove Heights right now. The boundaries are as follows. To the north, you have West St. Paul and South St. Paul. Very weird that they're both border, but that's how those places work. To the east, you have the Mississippi River, as I just mentioned. On the other side of the river is towns like Newport, St. Paul Park, and then Cottage Grove a little bit further to the south. To the south of here is Rosemont, and to the west is Egan and Sunfish Lake, which is a very, very small area. The schools here, I wouldn't call them complicated, but they are not particularly straightforward in that there are two districts that serve the area, one of which is slightly better than the other. By the way, I'm just going to do my best just to spin around to show you as much of what's going on here. It's so great. Sort of almost floodwaters down in here towards like a marshy area. There's a marina right over here, and again the river, which is awesome. So the schools, the better of the two school districts, serves the west part of Inver Grove Heights, basically west of Highway 3 and south of Highway 52, and that is Independent School District 196, Rosemont, Apple Valley, Egan, and I guess some Inver Grove, which is actually the school district that I went to growing up in Apple Valley, and it was a great school district, highly regarded. That gets an A overall. And then the eastern portion of Inver Grove Heights is served by none other than Inver Grove Heights School District 199. That gets a B+, which, so again, not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but that 196 is slightly higher rated than the Inver Grove district. Specifically, the high schools that serve Inver Grove are Egan High School, which gets an A+. That is the 9th best public high school in all of Minnesota. Again, according to niche.com. You have Rosemont High School, that gets an A, that's the 16th best, and you have Simley High School, which gets an A-, 64th best. So literally all quite good in the grand scheme of things. Middle schools, again, very, very good. You're gonna have Dakota Hills Middle School gets an A, Rosemont Middle School gets an A. Those are both 196, and then you have Inver Grove Heights Middle School, that gets a B-. Again, that's 199. Elementary schools, gonna follow a similar trend, and you have quite a few options, again, ranging from maybe like a B- to an A. And then lastly, you have Inver Hills Community College, which is a community college. I'm kind of at the end of this thing, and then it walks down, but awesome views here. I think we'll see if I can make it out to there while we're chatting here, because it is great. What a nice day. And you know what? I'm actually just gonna walk down there. We can talk about homes when I get down there. And all right, not bad. Here we are onto this bridge, and we're gonna talk a little bit about homes. There's a pretty diverse housing stock here in Inver Grove Heights. There's new builds happening currently as we speak, and there's older housing stock, with maybe the exception of some occasional farmhouses. You'll see most of the housing stock is probably 1950s and later, at least post-war, as it is quite suburban here. The median home price for single families is $361,000, which is just barely over the median of the whole Twin Cities metro. So I would say it's pretty consistent with that. And you have a huge range, like I said, $300,000 on the low end for single family homes, all the way up to $2.5 million, which is pretty buku bucks out here. But for sure, maybe some waterfront property, because there definitely is some of that here, and some of that beautiful hills, some beautiful views. That's going to be pretty expensive real estate. Somebody's going to put a pretty cool house on something like that. One thing I will note, and we can talk a little bit about this in pros and cons. While yes, this is all beautiful, I'm very thrilled to be here on a nice warm spring day. You do have Pine Bend Resources, aka the Coke refinery, and it's pretty much just right here. It's not technically within the border of Inver Grove, but the existence of that thing is definitely somewhat of a detractor from folks who live here in Inver Grove Heights. But the existence of this place right back here is absolutely a detractor for maybe why Inver Grove Heights hasn't grown as fast, maybe why it's affordable, something like that. That certainly has a stigma attached to it. But again, Beautiful spot in Inver Grove. You're not actually going to be right next to that, but if you get too close to that place, it stinks pretty bad. I'm really close to it right now and I can't smell it, but I do think that I'm actually upwind from it, so I don't think that really counts. With that said, I don't think that like buried the lead, right? I didn't just give up everything there is to like or dislike about Inver Grove. So let's hop over somewhere else, talk through pros and cons of living here, because there are a lot of pros and frankly, not that many cons. So let's go. All right, y'all, right now I'm at North Valley Park here in Inver Grove. What I love about this spot is that it's sort of tucked in, obviously like the name suggests, into a valley, and you're pretty much surrounded by hills and forest on all sides. That said, sounds like there's a wood chipper up the hill, so if you can hear that, I apologize. This whole park is very much about its Frisbee golf course. It's an absolute bro fest going on right now. There's so many people. Again, it's also a particularly beautiful day, but man, there's a lot of people here, and it's pretty close to Central within Inver Grove Heights. But we're here to talk about pros and cons as I see them for Inver Grove Heights. I've helped a couple people buy here, and the team has helped a few in Inver Grove, and there's a lot of variety, right? Across the handful of people we've helped buy here, it's a pretty diverse, look in terms of housing stock, which I think is what I'll call the first pro. Very diverse housing stock. You have very established sort of post-war and later homes, and kind of tucked into the older feeling neighborhoods, but you also have a lot of new builds going on here as well. And again, like I said earlier, the range is very dynamic, from 300,000 up to 2.5 million. That's about as big of a range as anywhere in the metro. I truly believe that. That might be the biggest range, other than, I guess, maybe just Minneapolis proper. You also have very good schools. I would say you have both very good and great schools, right? Kind of both, depending on which school district you're in. So again, pay attention to that. If being in like the excellent schools is a priority, make sure you're in 196. If a still like very good score is fine for you, then absolutely 199 I think will do the trick. And frankly, I think 199 is still a very good school, and by a lot of people's standards who are not from Minnesota, I think you'll think they're quite excellent. Inver Grove Heights also has a lot of suburban amenities. There's a lot going on in terms of places to eat and drink and shop, and the conveniences that you would expect out of a suburb. It is a pretty complete suburb. It's maybe not in the same vein as an Eagan or an Apple Valley or a Maple Grove or Plymouth or things like those, where they're sort of like ultimate suburbs, but it is quite complete, and you can pretty much do all of your daily errands, all of your chores and such within the boundaries of Inver Grove Heights. I think it's obvious that where I'm at right now would qualify as another one of the pros, and there's a lot of this, a lot of really beautiful outdoor spaces here in Inver Grove Heights. I would say without a doubt that is a pro. And then lastly, I think the access to downtown, both downtowns, is actually a pro. You're probably 25 minutes from Minneapolis, but you're definitely about 15 minutes to downtown St. Paul, which is quite slick, quite convenient. If that's where your work is or anything like that, I think that's pretty good. That's about as good as most suburbs are ever gonna get. But I do think one of my first sort of cons is that I personally don't love the drive between downtown St. Paul and Inver Grove Heights. It's mostly along Highway 52. I think Highway 52 is a bit intense. The drive is like a bit industrial for me, to be honest. It's just like, if I had to make that commute, I'd be like, man, this is not the most aesthetically pleasing commute. But I think that's a pretty small deal for a lot of people. But I do think, in general, there is a pretty industrial vibe in some of the parts, some of the areas of Inver Grove Heights. And most annoyingly, kind of along the river, which should be one of the most beautiful parts in Inver Grove Heights, but it's there are some beautiful spots, but there's also some, unfortunately, industrial areas, and I think that's a little bit of a shame. But hey, it is kind of, yeah, makes the world go round, I guess. And along with that sort of industrial stuff, there's just some moments of dinge, especially near those industrial areas. Some housing stock, but mostly some commercial spaces that are just, I think, utterly uninspiring or uninspired, if you will. And you also will have a little bit of light airplane noise because there's sort of a South St. Paul airport, but it's not going to be, it's nothing super wild. Another con for me is that it's pretty much the end of the road. To the south of Inver Grove Heights is basically Coates, which is a tiny, like, rural town, and then it's purely rural from here, right? It's, the rest of the way is super rural. If you need to access Rochester for any reason, for work or anything like that, maybe Inver Grove could be a great option because you're right along 52. And if you want to live in the Twin Cities metro but work in Rochester, maybe Inver Grove is a great spot for that purpose, almost above anything else. But to the south of Inver Grove, pretty much nothing, pretty much farmland, and no conveniences to speak of at all. Another con is that it's pretty cookie cutter. It's cookie cutter in an old way, right? The established neighborhoods of the 50s, 60s, 70s, they were cookie cutter. They're not necessarily that much sort of inspiring architecture and, you know, housing stock in those areas. There's going to be some very cool mid-century moments, but not that many, and some new builds that are absolutely beautiful. But I would say mostly the housing stock here is fairly cookie cutter at the very least. I think last con, I mentioned it already, is that Pine Bend Resources, aka the Coke refinery. And actually, I misspoke. Earlier I was in front of, or sort of across a river from, a different sort of refinery oil place. I actually don't remember what it was, Marathon or Mobile, something like that. And the Flint Hills Resources is the Coke refinery, which is just to the south in Rosemont. So the proximity to those two things, I think, are a couple of the biggest cons in general as it pertains to Inver Grove. But with all that said, I mean, look where we are right now, right? This is absolutely beautiful. There's undeniably some beautiful areas, fresh air, right? Green, lush, and with the rolling hills and the river. And so while, yes, that stuff exists, and it's definitely not my favorite part about Inver Grove Heights, Inver Grove Heights still has a lot of benefits, a lot of positive things going for it. Okay, what do you say? One more stop on this journey, and I'm gonna say, if you like what you see here, check out a couple of these other spots. Okay, right now I'm at Argenta Hills. I think that's how you say it. It's basically what I would say is off 52 where the Target is. It's a pretty new commercial district within Inver Grove Heights, and it's quite nice. Again, love a Target. Minnesota people love a Target. And I want to talk about the For Fans of section, which is to say, if you like anything that you're seeing here, if you like this vibe, what are maybe some other places that you might want to consider? But before I do that, I would like to say that if you want to work with us, we would absolutely love to help. I implore you to find anybody who has worked harder for you before even meeting you than we have. I think you'll be hard pressed to do so, but we would really love to help you, and this is what we do. This is what we do better than anybody else. I'm walking in front of some people eating a dinner, sushi dinner right now. It's awkward. I'm doing that for you. So I hope that resonates at all. And again, yeah, we would love to help. So if you're interested in working with us, go to our website, tothetwincities.com. We have a contact form there that you can fill out in like 30 seconds or less, or you can shoot us an email directly to info@tothetwincities.com. But okay, let's talk about it, shall we? What are some spots that you might want to consider if you like what you see here, or maybe you're, you know, maybe you were like dazed out for half of this and you're like, what was this like? Well, I guess the following are places that this place is kind of similar to. The first of which I'm going to say is Cottage Grove. I think a lot of why that's similar is geography. It's right next door, right? It's very, very close to it and has a lot of similar aspects in terms of natural elements, right? The river, kind of the bluffiness to it, but also a combination of really, really beautiful parts and maybe the occasional moment of industrial dinge, if that's, you know, and new builds too, by the way. I'm heading towards some new builds right now. Some beautiful, and Cottage Grove has got a lot of that. So I think also geographically, two spots come to mind. Rosemount, which is just to the south and southwest, and South St. Paul, which is just to the north. They have some similarities. Rosemount feels a little more like the new shiny parts of Inver Grove, where South St. Paul feels maybe a little bit more like the older sections of it. Then sort of getting away from this spot geographically, Savage and Chaska are two that in this, and Shakopee actually, are three in the sort of southwest corner that I think have a lot in common with Inver Grove Heights. In fact, I would think that their pros and cons section would be almost identical to Inver Grove Heights. So if you haven't checked those out yet, do so. We have a video on all of them. I think so far the only one we don't have one on is South St. Paul. The next one that comes to mind is in the northwest corner of the metro, literally about as far away from here as you can get while still being in the metro, and that is Rogers. Rogers, again, it's on the edge of the metro, a lot like this, a lot of new builds going in, some sort of industrial moments. It's by a river. I assure you the list goes on. I mean, yeah, check out these new builds. Some very, very nice new builds over in this area. Some really, really beautiful homes, just not too far from here to the east as well. And then last four fans of, it's getting windy, so I'm kind of glad I'm wrapping up here. Last four fans of is Blaine. Blaine is a suburb to the due north of Minneapolis. It's on the edge of the suburbs, very complete, has a lot of stuff going on, and really, overall, feels very, very similar. New builds, the whole deal. I promise. You will see the similarities if you ever compare the two in real life. I hope this video has been helpful. I hope this channel is helpful to you, and we'd love to help you in the future. I will see you in the next video, and bye-bye.